Welcome to the Transformations Podcast. Here, guests and I will share our transformative experiences and will explore how to find excellence in life. So I'm here today with Shifu Lorne Bernard. Lorne Bernard is a practitioner and teacher of the flying crane kung fu style. He's also an author and the owner of Contact Sports martial arts supply store in Laval, Canada. Welcome, Lorne. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you again, my friend.
So I see that you just came back from a fishing trip. How was that?
It's okay. I'm trying to set the record straight that my wife doesn't actually catch more fish than I do. But the truth is she catches more fish than I do.
Yeah.
It is, and we always miss the big ones and catch the little ones and let the little ones go. So we come home with like one fish or whatever.
But you had a nice time relaxing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got some decent weather in between the tornado scares.
Yeah. We have a tornado warning tonight, so if we get timed out, everyone, we will be back on.
Maybe.
And now I also know that you're a big motorcycle fan, right? You like riding your bike.
Yeah, I think in life, you go through phases. So when I was maybe 12 or 13, it was the motorcycle phase. And when I got 16, I was probably a little bit too crazy to be riding a motorcycle. And then it wasn't convenient because I was working downtown and I needed a car to bring stuff and whatever.
Right.
So I dropped the bikes for years and I started again recently. Like Kung Fu has always been my phase, but then I did a yoga phase and then a motorcycle phase. Now it's new and fun for me, so I'm on my bike like all the time, basically.
Yeah, that's great. It's like martial arts comes and goes at different levels as our years go. It's always there. Sometimes it's in the forefront, sometimes behind something new, but it never disappears. It's
Absolutely.
us traditional martial art guys.
So yeah, I think we're all the same. It's our drug. You're having a bad day, you go and train, and then the dopamine levels go up, and you're like, yeah, I feel good now. And one of the things about a lot of traditional kung fu systems is that when you're bored with one thing, just switch to the next one. So if I've been hitting a bag for 5 years, it's enough already. Now I'm gonna go do spear.
Right.
And then when I'm fed up with spear, I'll go practice with an umbrella wide just because I'm having fun, and that's how I look at it, basically.
Mm-hmm. There's so much to do, right? You have all the weapons and then all the empty hand forms, and you have the ancillary training, the iron palm, the stones, whatever. Then you just go and teach the students too. It's another thing.
That's right.
That's sometimes you get bored training a little bit and you just want to teach others. Because you can express the art a little bit that way.
Yeah. It's also one of the few places where people of different age groups can be together. So you could be a 60-year-old man with a 20-year-old young man, and it's not weird. You're just teaching him martial arts. It's cool. And you can share some knowledge that way, which is in another circumstance, you wouldn't have a chance to do that, basically.
Right. We have a little bit of tornado rain coming in, so it's getting loud in here, but I don't think you can hear it yet.
No.
I put the Chi force field up, so I'm safe. But the rest of the family, they're about 3 rooms over, so I haven't got to extend it through the walls yet. But I'll get there. I'll come up for a private lesson. You'll show me how to do it. Now, have you always been in the flying crane style, or did you start earlier with something different?
When I was like 10, 11, my father was an amateur boxer.
Okay.
So he taught me a little bit of boxing, not much. Just keep your hands up, left, right, maybe a hook. That was about it. And my mother stopped us because he was from a different generation. So 11-year-old kids bleeding all over the place was perfectly normal, And my mother went, and that was it, But I did at least learn to keep my hands up and throw a 1-2, which if in self-defense, that's probably more than enough already, For most. Now I'm going to swear most ass clowns can't fight anyway, so a left-right is more than enough. But then I did a bit of judo, maybe 3 months, and then I jumped into the white crane.
Okay. So did you grow up in Quebec? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I'm from Laval, Quebec. Well, Laval is a suburb of Montreal. And so I grew up here for me, it was, I had a rough childhood. Basically, Quebec, the one of the zones of tension is English versus French.
Mm.
I'm half and half, so I was kind of stuck in the middle. And my parents wanted me to learn French because we spoke English at home, so they sent me to French school. So when I went to French school, I was you goddamn English bastard, and when I got back home, I was you effing Frenchman. And so now I'm a martial arts instructor. Go figure. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and then when I learned Chinese kung fu, the Cantonese and the Toisanese, well, they weren't much nicer. You know. So excuse me one moment, my
Sure.
dog is going nuts.
Okay. When you cook them, usually I preheat the oven.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so you were between English and French, but it turned out Chinese. So
You know, go figure. So for my white crane, I assume you're going there. So for my white crane is in Canada we have a high school and we have something called CJEP, or in Quebec we have something called CJEP. I guess it's like senior high, and then we have university. I started school younger, so I started university at 18. Maybe the first week I was in university, there was a young man doing a demonstration of white crane kung fu. He was from Malaysia. And my friend said, "Hey, let's watch." We looked, we were impressed, and then my friend convinced me to join. My friend lasted a month, and I lasted much longer, basically.
yeah, 40 years or whatever it's been, 50 years. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And what was most fascinating for you about the style when you were first starting? You know, as a kid, our imagination grasps onto certain things.
Yeah. Well, we were of the generation of Kung Fu and Bruce Lee and all that, and Shaolin, and that was all
Yeah.
the latest thing. And what really got me is when I saw this guy, I knew this is real Kung Fu. And I remember they were punching downwards. And in boxing, you don't have that. And then and on the street, I knew, oh, that's going to work because I would never saw that before, you know. So so that got to me. Then when I learned just the fact that it was really authentic. I remember, you know, you go up to the kung fu school and you can smell the Chinese medicine 2 stories
Yeah.
below the kung fu, and you can hear the guys hitting the bags, bang, bang. Like, oh my god! You know, many people didn't join before they got to the door. They just turned around and walked away because and it was on the 5th floor, so you had to be in shape to walk. So if it just got rid of all the outer shape fat guys, they're not going to.
Yeah.
You know?
You go up 3 floors, turn around. Next day, 3 floors and 2 steps. You know, and you work your way up over the couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I think just the fact that it was authentic and different was what got me hooked.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the flying crane system, which is your branch? There are several different crane branches. A little bit about the characteristics of the flying crane branch that may be unique or different, or you don't even have to compare it to the other branches, but
Sure.
I think the other ones have a shorter stance, you know,
Yes.
and so forth. So,
So there's a few things. The first thing is the white crane. There's two kinds. There's one from Tibet and one from Fujian. The one from
right.
Fujian, they all come from Fangqinyang, but the histories are somewhat changing or divergent. In my opinion, it's just business. There's money involved in martial arts, and
It's all branding.
it's all branding, exactly. And then they change the story a bit to fit their circumstance. So I'll see some schools, very good schools, authentic lineages, and then they'll say Fang Qinyang's husband, and I'm like spitting out my food. In my branch, Fang Qinyang never got married, never had kids. So I don't know like the story with that, but that's irrelevant. It doesn't mean it just means 400 years later we got the stories a little different one from the other.
Yeah.
This being said, most of the Fujian white cranes using the stance called Puting, Pupa, not straight, not eight, not
Right. It's a
not,
character 8 stance.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, or Sanjiaoma, basically three triangular stance. My flying crane, the big difference is our feet are in a straight line. The reason our feet are in a straight line, so like some people's gongbu, but narrower with the back leg bent. So the reason our feet are in a straight line is because we're very concerned about getting hit in the groin. Why? Because we hit the groin all the time. So if I told my teacher I'm going to punch him in the face, he'd call me a moron. The face is not a good target. The groin is a good target. The knee, the throat, whatever. So because we're concerned about protecting the groin, we keep our legs like closed and our hips closed. That's the main difference with the other systems. A lot of the hand techniques, like with your art, I mean, we could just say, oh, it's the same move. It probably has the same name too. I mean, there's many.
Yeah.
The other thing is flying crane. This I learned from the master who the inheritor of the art was named Li Joo-chian. At first, he was my subo. He was my uncle, not actually my teacher. But over the years, we became very close, and eventually I became his only disciple, actually. And because he had learned from his father, the knowledge is deeper. So a lot of people, you ask them, why is it called flying crane? And they'll say, oh, because they do a lot of flying kicks, which we do a fair amount of double flying kick. But that's not the reason. The reason is the footwork. So our footwork is very active. We have of course we have long, medium, and short, but we have a lot of long. And you want to have this tricky, very tricky footwork, basically. Angles and this and that. And imagine if you see a plane that flies like this, but if you see a crane flying up, down. So if you look at flying crane practitioners who are skilled, it'll look like cranes flying. Their footwork will slide and then all of a sudden go down or up. Or tun tu fo chen. Yes, the floating and sinking. So that's where flying crane have a different flavor. It'll be kind of like my teacher rarely showed anything to the outside world. But I was lucky enough to see him, especially if he had a beer or two, then he would show me more stuff.
That's right.
But he kind of moved like a gazelle almost. It was very light on his feet and very quick and up, down, and then and oh my God, and most people are very stiff. So that's not our thing. So flying crane is the stance and the footwork is very different. We also Phoenix eye fist, but I believe a lot of the white crane systems use a Phoenix eye fist. Do you?
We have it in Gocho, but I'm not sure crane specific. I can't speak for them. The Fujian crane.
For us, it's all Phoenix eye or finger strikes or chop. That's the hand technique.
Right.
And the other thing is we have a lot of grabbing. I know everybody grabs, but we really have a lot of grabbing. Higher level is grabbing everywhere.
Yeah. The crane element within our 5 ancestor fists is all the fingers. The saying is white crane fingers, right? So it's all the side palms, the finger jabs, the throat jabs, the sleeping hands.
And then there's only one real question is, did you train your fingers? Because if you didn't, then you can't do it. And
you can't do it.
And as soon as you just do a little bit, even if you're not, breaking boards or whatever, but you get comfortable with your fingers, then you're like, oh, I can do it. So now I'm very comfortable doing it. But if not, there's no way,
Oh, yeah. You hit one hard object, it feels like your middle finger collapses or your pointer, whichever one's in front, is going to collapse in, and the pain is crazy. You really do have to train it.
Oh, yeah. I just returned from a trip to Malaysia. Basically, my teacher passed away, and I went to get the family book and close the door and pay my respects to my teacher's grave. And there's one old white crane master. His name is Wong Chuling. He's 95, and he was an original student of my teacher's father, one of the top students. And he was famous for his fingers. It's very interesting because I asked him, do you train the jars? He says, no. I'm like, oh, that's odd, Do you train your shins? No. Okay. And then do you train your fingers? Oh, yeah. And he would put his fingers, and this is like verified by many people, this deep through a banana tree, this way. Not one shot, but like
all the way up to the arc in the thumb.
Yeah. And his fingers, he did them straight. It's not like, so I do it this way, but he would bend his finger and they straight, like the old school karate people would do.
Yeah.
And trust me, his fingers are dangerously. I asked him, are your fingers still hard? He hit the table and I jumped 3 feet in the air. Oh my God, at 95, he was still like, yeah, my fingers are still hard. So I asked him, how many years did you train? 45, 7 days a week. Like,
just on his fingers, yeah.
His fingers. So it's a one-trick pony, but it's a hard trick to beat. Because once he's close, you're finished.
Right.
So that was nice to see,
Imagine hitting in the throat and the eyes with just with that,
And the thing is, he's trickier than that. He'll come in what we call this jingsu kaiko. The golden lion opens his mouth, so he'll come in here, and then he's seeking to see if he can press or not. And if he can, he might go for your throat, but he might go for your solar plexus. He might go for your bicep. He might go for your groin, and he's going to do it hard because he's used to thrusting through stones. So it's like, oh, shit, this is not funny now. Now it's not funny. And now I'm like, oh, welcome to real white crane, not kickboxing. Kickboxing is okay, but real white crane is get close with your fingers, grab it with your fingers. But nowadays, most people don't have the skill or the desire to learn all that stuff. So.
Well, people don't want to do the ancillary training, right? Hitting the sandbags, thrusting your hands into the stones and all those things. Arm banging. They don't even want to do, it leaves bruises.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
I had a friend of another style from Vietnam, very good master, Lee Man Hong. And so when he first started teaching, he calls me up. He goes, "Lauren, how's your school?" I go, "I'm doing good." He goes, "I keep losing all my students." So I'm like, "That's odd. What do you do?" He goes, "I don't know." So he tells me his class. He does the warm up, and then he did a half an hour of arm banging. And I'm like,
Oh
"No,
my God.
dude, I'm in Canada. Stop now." You know, he's, oh.
You can't do anything else after that.
Imagine they have bruises, like, and I was like, of course you're losing your students. So.
Oh my
He goes, in
gosh.
Vietnam, that's how we used to do it in the 70s. I'm like, yeah, well, we're not Vietnam and we're not the 70s anymore. So.
I know when I came to visit you in your home a few years ago when you hosted your tournament, uh, that that you had iron palm bags and different things in your basement for home training. You don't get enough of it at the school?
At the school, I'll be honest with you, I don't train. I don't want to be jack of all trades, because for me, is a bad thing. But I don't have the time to do everything I should. But because
Yeah,
I'm an important person in my system, I want to make sure I learned everything. I'll never teach something I haven't been able to master myself, because I really despise people who teach things they can't do. So for me, lately, I've been training my fingers in the stones and the jars and the shins, and that's enough for me. The iron palm, I don't do so much. I was noticing in my students, it was starting to get ridiculously bad handwriting, and so I was like, yeah, I don't really
right.
need to do this. I just do the minimum, and that's it. Enough.
Just turn to texting. You don't have to worry.
Texting. If you see my text, you can. I write my text, and my friends go, "Yeah, I don't speak Chinese. Like, I don't even
I
know
don't
what
speak
to write."
Chinese. I always just say my thumbs are too big and I hit in all the wrong letters. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You can decode it.
We're not used to it. We need our glasses.
Right.
Our fingers are hard. It's like,
Oh my gosh. So I remember when you turned 40 and I had called and Corey was there and Jojo was there and some other people.
Yeah, that was good time.
And I was like, I mean, when you turn 50, and I was like, man, 50 is so old. I just turned 54. It's like time just like whips you by.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And one of the things I learned in yoga is don't get too attached, because there's some things, even a yoga master, even a kung fu master, that you won't be able to do anymore. And now I see this, the kind of white crane is mostly hands, but there's a bit of gymnastics things here and there. And some of those gymnastic things, I'm at the point where my student asks me, and I tell my younger students, show them how to do it. It's life. What do you want to do?
Right.
And I just, if you're honest with people, I'm a little bit old for that. My back is sore. I don't want to do it these gymnastics spinning with your legs like this. I'm like, I'm getting a bit old for that.
Yeah. I'll hit the guy with the cane.
Or my finger is fine.
Now, your crane style is your master was in Cebu, right? Cebu, Sarawak,
Yeah.
which is a section of Malaysia, an island, right? Within the
Yes.
Malaysian Peninsula.
Yeah, it's the island of Borneo. What happened is his father left China in 1939 or 40, I forget. I think 39, during the Second World War. He went to Singapore, expecting the Japanese not to attack Singapore. But if you know anything about history, it's one of the greatest military defeats for the British was the Japanese attack of Singapore. They actually snuck through the jungle, and the British had the cannons locked in towards the ocean, and they couldn't turn them around. Brilliant guys, And the Japanese were like, well. So anyways, long story short, he ran away from Singapore and went to Malaysia. And then the Japanese came there. Then he had no choice to... So he settled in Malaysia. And so his name was Lee Kianke. He actually had 5 schools at the height. And our white crane style was one of the bigger ones in Malaysia, definitely. So we had quite a great rep. But by the late 70s... he was getting older, and the students, none of them are good businessmen, and so you often see the best fighter is the worst businessman. It's often I'm kind of in there, best, but I'm not.
Oh man, I know a lot of the Fujian or Southern Chinese martial arts. The masters fled to Southeast Asia. My Sifu and our styles in the Philippines, but it's also in Malaysia and Singapore and Indonesia, different branches.
Yeah.
A lot of white crane is all around the areas and other styles. And I feel like, thank God it moved there. They moved there because when the government came in and was like assassinating Kung Fu teachers and then said, wait, we'll turn it into wushu.
There'd be nothing left.
Good time not to be in China.
And they saved it in Malaysia. What the bad news is that it's dying, if not already dead.
Yeah.
I think the good news is it went from China to Malaysia, Philippines, Taiwan, and the other second part of the good news, if we're making a spin on it, and then it went to Canada, United States,
North America, for sure.
I don't think it's going to last long. In Malaysia, it's done already. It's finished. The only people there are like 90-something years old or are asking to learn from. I know you have the same situation where you'll go to the Philippines and you'll be teaching people, right? So it's
right.
Last time I was there, I was teaching more than I was learning because the learning was a very elderly gentleman who could give me advice, but that's it. I mean?
Yeah.
So it is what it is,
Yeah, our club in the Philippines for Five Ancestor Fist, Ben Kiam, they started in 1896 or 1898, something like that.
Wow.
But they officially closed the building. They couldn't pay the rent anymore, the mortgage anymore on it, the payments. They officially closed it about 10 years ago. And then the different Sihings and Sifu were teaching some groups, and now you can't find anyone. It's just a few people here and there. And it's like, man, and Alex Coe passed away, and he was in 2015, and he was the one really pushing the club for a good 25 years through his publications and videos and things. And now he's not there to pull the troops together, and you just see it dying out.
It's traditional Kung Fu is definitely dying out.
Yeah.
There's still some out there. There's so many factors in the last book I wrote with my teacher. We have a section on that. But there's so many factors, and can we reverse the trend? I don't know. I mean, I'm getting old. I have a few good students, but I have a few students who just drift away and they don't want to put the time in, and or why train Quan Dao? What's it gonna do? Maybe
right.
you have a movie role or show the guy how to use a Quan. Aside from that, what are you gonna do?
Well, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's part of the art. Like people here in the United States, we have people who dress up and reenact the Civil War.
Right.
Red coats and blue coats, and they've got muskets. And like, why do you want to train with muskets and wear Civil War uniforms? Well, it's the same reason I want to wear a Kung Fu uniform and swing a guandao. It's just, you feel connected to something in time that was from a different time that is still in your heart for some reason, and that you want to be part of. And I feel like those weapons train strength, coordination, lung capacity, power. You play with a heavy guandao, not the flimsy shit. And for a while, and then you get like some butterfly swords, just like, your skill elevates.
And sometimes there's some like footwork patterns or slight details and techniques that are more found in the weapons. So I get students, what's that? And I'm like, it's the first staff form, the footwork. You didn't notice? And they're like, what? I'm like, I told you need to learn staff. It's in the, so it is, you snooze, you lose, basically,
You snooze, you lose, yeah.
You're right about the weapons. I never did weights. I'm not a big, strong guy, but I'm fairly strong. And it's because I'm always carrying double weapons. My Qigong Xianganda Sai were like 3 pounds each.
Wow.
This, So you train with that, it makes a big difference. And you get that, like most of our martial arts systems, many of us will emphasize that one punch kill. So it's easy to talk about one punch kill. But when you're training staff, the guy will pam, and that's a one staff kill. And then you're like, oh man, that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm supposed to do with my hands too. Et voila, now you know what you're supposed to do with your hands, So
right.
Accurate with the staff and you hit him right in the head. Now accurate with your hand, the Phoenix fly right in his temple. Done, But
right.
So yeah, I agree 100%. The traditional weapons have a lot. Same people will tell me, oh, traditional weapons aren't practical. What if I have a gun? So what if you have a gun? How close are you to me? You're an expert with knives. I bet on you 100 times. You know what I mean? Like for sure.
Yeah.
A load of crap, Or the guy says, oh, what were you using double broadswords for? Well, me personally, nothing. But if you hurt my daughter, you want to see how I use double broadswords? You'll find out real fast.
Right.
No guns stop me. I'm going to chop your head off right now. And people don't do that. Well, go to Malaysia because they still do in 2023, and Philippines too. Shit.
You heard that one, right?
Qigong. You want to pray to Lei Gong?
Run, gong.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a long thunderclap.
Scary stuff.
It's scary stuff.
We all get scared, and then what do? We hop in our cars. And like, did anybody make a connection here, guys? We need to change, or else it's gonna, it's
Yeah.
not a joke, man. Because we're old enough to know it never rained like that before, and there was no tornadoes. So, but anyway, that's another story.
Now, you guys in your crane style, you have I mean, you got quite a few weapon forms. I think you have like 5 pole forms. How many pole forms?
You won't believe me.
No.
36.
16?
36.
Oh, come on.
I
36?
don't know them all. I
Are
know.
they all different length poles, or like holding it in thirds versus single headed or double
No,
headed, or
no,
they're all
it's
the.
all one staff. I think the family likes staff. He has
Yeah.
a book just on staff. I learned 15 forms. The last 2 are like 90 moves each. I'm like, enough, like enough.
You
It's
can't you
ridiculous.
can't retain it.
No, no. And I asked my sumo, my Sifu's wife,
Yeah.
why? And she goes, look, they had nothing to do. This is like 1910. There's no TV, there's no radio, there's no internet, and they love
Was
staff.
there TikTok?
No, no
No,
TikTok.
not in 1910.
So yeah, we have more than 18 weapons, and the staff.
Yeah.
My Qigong wouldn't say staff is his favorite, but I think it was kind of thing, And yeah, so we call a 7-star staff based on the 7-star footwork,
Yeah.
and the staff is what you would call tantogwin, like single end staff, where we're using
Yeah.
the front end, and it's about 7 feet long. Give or
Yeah.
take.
I think I saw you and Mario, who, for people who don't know, is, I guess, your number one,
He's one of my number one
one
students.
of your top number ones, and he runs the store
Yeah.
or some. Yeah. But I saw you have quite a lot of nice videos online and on YouTube. And there was a video of you guys doing a 2-man set or something with the poles, and your footwork was all crazy compared to his footwork. And I was like, yeah, go, Lorne.
What's funny is I asked him, like, he's walking by going to do something. Come here, let's do that staff for Mr. Mancuso. So he's like,
Yeah.
what? He didn't practice. He had no idea. So sometimes he was a bit mixed up, So it's okay,
Yeah. Nobody knows, though.
no. And
Like,
that's called editing.
When I go out for Chinese New Year in Chinatown, I do some forms. Nobody knows I'm putting 3 forms together because I forgot in the moment or wasn't prepared, or it doesn't matter.
Does it matter? Is it still
You're just showing the art,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
In French, we have a saying: "It's faut pas être plus catholique que le pape." It means don't be more Catholic than the Pope.
That's right.
What they mean by that is, like, if the form started with the left, but now this guy changed it to the right, and you're making a huge drama, if you get in a self-defense situation, it's really going to be irrelevant.
It's going to be whatevs.
So yes, you want to preserve the art. More importantly, you understand why is the art made that way,
Right.
and then more importantly, you want to focus on the applications, because if you can't do the applications, you're not doing the art. You're just doing a part of it, basically.
Right.
As you were hinting, you're not doing the fundamentals. Well, I saw your former guest, Mr. Sifu Chu, and he was talking Robert Chu, and he was talking about the importance of application. 100%. My teacher Li Joo-chian, he always used to say, "Kung Fu 是用法，不是套路." Kung Fu, or skill, is in application, not in forms.
Right.
I don't know that form. Who cares? It's just the form.
Who cares?
Like, it's irrelevant. So people like me and you who are inheritors, now I learn all the forms because for the art, preserve.
You have to.
That's the only reason. It's not, if you learn that one form, now all of a sudden, you have the light around you, like
in a movie.
You're a great fighter. No, of course not.
Yeah.
You need to do the fundamentals and the hard work, basically.
Yeah. We have a lot of. How many empty hand forms do you have? Just solo empty hand, not paired.
Okay, so I don't separate them. Okay, so
Okay.
my basic moves are like, so this 1, 2, 3 would be considered a form. So I would say I have 76 forms, but the first 22 are short, like 6-move forms or whatever.
Okay.
So it's
Like
misleading.
combos.
Yeah, and a lot of those forms are 2-man forms. I would say about 30 are 2-man forms. Now, once you get to the intermediate levels, they're very short forms. So like maybe a flying crane intermediate set is 35 moves.
Yeah.
It's not that long,
That's about right.
A long form, it'll be 70 moves, maybe 80, 90 moves at the most. So they're not that, it's not like Honda or Choi Foot can have.
Oh, geez. I was just thinking, Hunga, Twirly Foot, they go on forever. Yeah.
When I first learned it, I learned trolley foot too. When I learned trolley foot, I used to smoke. A week later, I quit. I was forget it. I can't do it.
Oh, oh, that's right. Yeah, Charlie Foot. I met your Sifu. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. He's in Hong Kong now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So White Crane, and the forms is whoever created this system or the people who created it actually had a very scientific mind, because now I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, it's modules. It's like the first module is the turning, the second module is the 3 steps forwards, 3 steps back. The third module is the kind of skipping jabul, 1, 2, 3. Then the next is kicking, then it's ground fighting, then it's 2-man forms, then it's this, then it's that, and you're like, oh, and then that's, you know, and then the higher stuff is all footwork and, you know, the different takes on a familiar story, you know. So
Nice.
and what I found too is, again, I like doing many different forms, contrary to other people. But of course, in conjunction with footwork drills, bag drills, conditioning, and a hell of a lot of sparring. Guys who do forms and don't spar, this is not kung fu, you know. So,
Right.
but I like the forms because if you're not that clever, it spells it out for you.
Right.
This way, that way, and then you're like, oh shit, that other form does it on the other side. Yeah, you can do it on the other side. Oh, I never thought of that. So it just, you know, I don't like it where like you're one move and it's 1,000 things. I'm like, I'm not that smart. So just give me the simple stuff. I'll start with that, you know? So
Yeah.
learning all these forms gives you these little different take on a story you already know, kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you know, for people who don't know who aren't good at improvisation, for example, you're giving them all the examples in the forms, and they practice them enough, it becomes part of muscle memory, so a reaction can come out.
Exactly.
You know, I could never improvise in music. When I was a kid, I took piano. I could never improvise, but I could play all the notes, but I couldn't improvise. But with eskrima or kung fu, I can improvise like a bazillion things in a second for some reason, you know. And but I have students who can't.
That's because you have skill. Now you've reached the plateau. You're there already. You know the
Yeah.
story about the river and the lake. So
Tell the story for our listeners.
So basically, when you're doing martial arts, I think music would be the same. Is you're paddling up against the current in the river. So if you stop, you go right back down. But
That's right.
if like 10, 20 years later, you hit the lake. Well, now if you stop, you're okay. You could start again in a month. You'd still be good. Same, a good guitar player could stop 6 months, pick up his guitar, and you're like, damn, this guy can play. But he's at the lake already, you know?
Right.
Same for martial arts. It's, you know, useless debates and theories. You know, my theory's better than your theory. And I'm like, look, you're going from Montreal to Philadelphia. You can take a plane, a train, you can walk, you can hitchhike, you can do anything you want. One question: did you get to Philadelphia?
Right.
If you did, you're one of us. If you did,
Yep.
you're not. So all those martial artists, I'm sure you don't want to touch hands. I don't want to touch hands with you. You don't want to touch, because we all know everybody here is good. Why? Because they all got to Philadelphia. So it's irrelevant
right.
how you did it. It's like, did you get there or not? If you got there, cool, right?
Yeah. You got to come to Philadelphia.
I'd love to.
I'm going to bring you out when COVID's a little bit more down. You know, we used to have events twice a year, banquets and demonstrations and different things. But we'll have you down on the next one. Would love to have you down.
I would love to come. Thank you.
And just stay for as long as you can stay, a couple days, a week, whatever. Bring the family. We've got plenty of room here. So
take my motorcycle, have fun.
Yeah, that's better. And then we can go to Chinatown and New York and everything else and just enjoy.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. I saw you met a lot of nice, interesting people in New York too.
I do. I try and go up. I use, at least once a month, and I've become really good friends, like brothers, with Takwa Eng, the Fujia Pai teacher. And last week or 2 weeks ago, I took a mentor of mine, Grandmaster Rene Navarro, who's Filipino, but he started training in 1962. He's 82 now, and old Lohan, Fujian Lohan Kung Fu in Waeng Temple in the Philippines from Lao Kim, and then Tai Chi and Arnis. Rene, I brought him up to New York to introduce him to TAC and to go to some herb shops and things. And we ran into Wai Hung on the street, just walking down the road.
I remember watching on videos when I was a young kid on that.
Yeah, ESPY.
Yeah, impressive.
Yeah, he's just the nicest human being.
Wow.
Just like no ego. I go up there, I learned some of the weapons from him and some tiger Fujian, and then I taught him some gocho forms and some eskrima techniques. And he's just like, oh, show me the next move. Show me the next move. We just trade. We trade arts. We eat food.
Very
We
cool.
just talk. We have a great time.
We were supposed to do that stuff for knives. Me and you, remember? It just
I
never
know.
happened. But
Now
hopefully,
I'm totally bummed that he didn't come up to see your Sifu, Li Jun-chan, before he passed, to learn from him as well. There's opportunities that get missed, and you don't know that's
yeah,
the only opportunity.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's.
His staff was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy, very old-fashioned, secretive. Yeah, very secretive, very old-fashioned. But I was his disciple, so I say, "Oh, Mark's my friend. Oh, he's your friend. Okay." And then,
Okay.
like, oh shit,
Right.
man, like if not, he'd just sit there and smile and not say a word. You know what I mean? Like he would take a 7-foot staff and write Li joo-chian in a space this big with the tip of his thing. I'm like, what the heck?
Wow.
He was amazing, but he didn't like to show it much, and
Yeah.
it
He
was
looks very mild mannered in his pictures and things.
he was
He's
very
like an
nice.
accountant or something. He's got a wallet in his back pocket. His shirt's tucked in, but then, pata! Right?
Exactly. And he was it's a different culture. I don't understand Taoism too much. So
Okay.
he's very religious Taoist.
Oh, he was a Taoist. Okay.
Yeah, he would,
Rene Navarro is Taoist. Yeah.
every 3 weeks we'd be having a birthday party for whatever god, and literally with a birthday cake and a lion dance, and I was like, what the heck's going on? Or today I can't eat because it's a fasting. It was
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah, it's way above my head. He didn't push it because he said, Lorne, you're not a Taoist? I'm no. He's okay. Well, never
Right.
mind, But when he taught kung fu, he could be difficult. So if he didn't like you, he'd just watch you do it wrong for 10 years. Couldn't care less. And I was
Yep.
like, and he'd just be like, that's the way. It's that meant to be. And then I'm like, oh my. One time he was teaching me fan. Okay, I don't really love fan, but I learned
Yeah.
it for the girls, and our white crane fan is good for using. So
Okay.
teaching me joint locks with the fan. So I go, like, did you teach so-and-so, your friend in Malaysia? He's no. I'm like, why not? He goes, he's not my student. They've been friends 50 years. I'm looking at him, what the heck? Then I say, oh my God, Or you would say, let's say you say, can I buy a form from you? He's sure, $1,000. So you give him a red envelope, he gives you you give him $1,000. He teaches you the form. Any questions? Sure. Any question? He'd answer, but no more. And then I'm like, and he's like, the guy's happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy. If the guy had, and then like somebody like me who earned it, well, then he would say, oh, wait, here you have to, and here make sure your foot, and don't follow the book because the book is not telling you the truth. And then, oh my God. And then you're like, oh, why didn't you show him? It wasn't meant to be. You're like, oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that was particular, but I got
Yeah.
to see all sides, Even
Very
when we
interesting.
have like a secret book, like the book of forms, and let's say somebody Chinese who knows white crane can read the book, right? But not everything's written, and there's purposely misleading stuff in that book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really old school, so you'd be like, this two-man set doesn't work. And I look at him, what the heck is written? And he goes, number 1 starts with number 6. It's not 1, 1. No, it's 1 to 6, 2 to 7. So if you don't know, you're going crazy trying to figure it out, And I go, why? A long time ago, we don't trust people. Shit.
Yeah. Then why put it in the book? Marketing.
To remember it all.
Yeah.
They were afraid somebody will take the book. Anyways, this
Yeah.
is from a long, long time ago, But
Yeah.
same, or it says, let's say there's this move, but it doesn't tell you what to do with the other hand.
That's right.
So you're supposed to know, and if you don't, that's a you problem. You know what
That's
I mean?
a you problem.
So
Oh, you got to make a shirt. That's a you problem.
that's my daughter's line, by the way.
Oh, is it? I thought it was too young for you.
Yeah,
You're not that hip.
We learn from our children too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to show something to our viewers, and after I do, I'll tell the listeners what it is because I want to get a reaction. Tell me how this piece of secret material came about. Ta-da! I'm holding up Volume 1, original edition of Lorne Bernard's White Crane book from 1993. That's 30 years ago, right? First edition. And then you came out with the awesome second edition, which I love. Me and Russ Smith talk all the time about how much we love the layout and the content of
Thank you.
this book. It's been an inspiration. Oh, Master, who's that? Lorne Bernard on the back.
With hair.
Yeah, with hair. Well, once upon a time, my friend. And then we got the hardcover edition. And then we got the latest one with your Shifu on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Before we talk about the new one that you're working on, tell me about how the idea came about for you to I guess you self-published this first one, or
Absolutely.
all of them, but how it came about that you had the idea to do the book and the idea for what to include in it. I mean, awful young pictures of you in there.
Yeah, I
They
know.
look great.
I graduated university in political science, so I can write. So when I just thought this would help the art, I think it's more about helping the art and help the students too. So I wrote that first book, but this is a long time ago. This is 1990. I started working on it. I think I might have been doing it on a typewriter.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a long time ago, you know.
it looks typewritten inside even.
Anyhow,
Collector's edition.
it certainly is, because that was actually the first English language book on white crane for sure.
Wow.
You know? And I even had to correct a few quote unquote famous people on their histories, which I won't say, but I was like, I'm sorry, you got it wrong. And then afterwards they fixed it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, anyhow,
There you go.
the second book was basically the first book, and I just decided to fix it, to make it better, to put all the names.
It's drastically better. There's probably, publishing software, or you had a computer this time, because the layout is nicer, the photos, the descriptions. I mean, the work went into it. Not that work did, but a modern, updated version.
And also, I had by then 10 years had passed. I had spent a lot more time with Li Joo-chian.
Oh yeah,
Li Joo-chian Sifu. I kept asking him questions, and I was like verifying. This is actually I learned a lot. I learned a lot asking him questions and verifying and double. Are you sure? And then he would say, "You don't understand. This means that. In Chinese, we write it this." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I learned a lot doing the research. So actually, the book I'm making now is I'm doing a third edition of that same book. So I'm going to change the cover, and over the years, Master Lee asked me to standardize the system. So there's a few hands where I have to change the hand to the new way or whatever, and I explain why. And a few pictures I wasn't happy with. Some text I have a bit extra, just add a paragraph here or fix a line here. Or sometimes I read it, I go, I don't think they understand what I'm trying to say, so I'll reword it. So it'll be perfect by the fourth edition.
Nice. That's the power of books is something that this modern new generations don't appreciate, right? My son and daughter read a lot as a kid, and I would read to them. We collected books for them, always went to the bookstores, books in my house all the time. And then they hit a certain age, 13, 14, and it just went straight to YouTube, the phones and the iPads and whatever. And now they don't read anymore. And it's just like so many people don't read. And I put up an article, I think last night on tambulimedia.com on close body strikes of Gocho. And people are like, well, we don't read. Nobody's going to look at it. So I made a video and put on top in the article of techniques. So, they'll watch the video, maybe want to read. It's like,
we have
but there's so much more in the written word than on the video.
Of course.
Yeah.
But we have to learn to adapt. Because if we don't, we're finished. So we're going to have to make videos, and if you want to, but there's always people that if you want more concise information, you might want to read. Same like I studied political science. Well, one of the most dangerous things that ever happened in the United States and in the world is now people think they're getting their information. So they go, I can get the information. Actually, you can't. You are not qualified to know what is valid information. Your source is biased. You have no idea what you're doing. So you have to be careful. So you can watch a YouTube video on self-defense for the street, and me and you might just kind of smirk and go, okay.
But other people are really thinking.
Yeah. And, we both know, like when I see somebody, I don't agree with their position, I'm polite enough not to say a word.
Right.
So it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, so
there's some people with huge millions of followers who have martial art channels, and it's just crap.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible stuff. And he's even saying things like, and then when he used hit him with the tiger beaks. I'm like, beaks? You mean claws? You know, it's like ridiculous stuff. And the
He's a
following is there because he
businessman.
looks good. He's got a shirt off, you know, and he built his channel. And I just look like a meatball rolling down a hill, you know, swinging my arms.
You know, and my uncle was a good businessman, and he told me, he's 87 now, and he told me in the 70s something fundamental changed. And I said, what's that? He says in the 70s the look became more important than the product. So if me and you know, were cut and we could do the splits, people, oh, the guy can do the splits and he can cut. He's cut. But I know, like, all the sit-ups in the world won't help you when I strike you with my Phoenix eye right where your abs don't go. It's not going to do a thing. There's nothing you can do. All the sit-ups, one punch, you're done, right? So, but they don't know that, you know. So we have to, we have to pay attention to the look. Same in the old days, the school smelt bad. The Sifu smoked cigarettes.
Right.
We have to learn a little bit, you know, have the good look, but at the same time, have the product too, because too many people don't. You know?
Yeah.
Same when I hear people, it drives me crazy. And again, I have nothing against boxing. I love boxing. But my father was a boxer. My kung fu brother was a professional boxer. So I sparred with boxers all the time. And now they're like, oh, if you want to be a good fighter, learn boxing, jiu-jitsu, and BJJ, or Thai boxing. All perfectly legitimate arts. And I always say to the guys, so you're saying the boxing is superior to Mokgar or boxing Cholefoot or Chojiao. But he has no idea what I just said. So you're expressing an opinion based on nothing. You don't know anything, you know. And my father, who was a boxer, used to watch me play kung fu, and he was like, geez, you guys will kill us. And I'm like, of course, because there's no rules. So when I see guys do this, and I'm like, I'll just pull your hand down and punch you in the head. What are you doing? You know, like, but they don't know because they just watch TV and MMA, and some guy with a big mouth is saying how everything is the best and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's too bad. It's too bad. Again, boxing is great. They have a lot of qualities. They can hit. They have beautiful combinations. In close, they're dangerous. But they have a lot of things they don't do. Boxers can't see your feet for $1 million. You could kick them anytime you want. You agree or not? You know, I sparred boxers. You just fake hot, boom, kick right in the head. The guy's, what the heck was that? He's not used to it, you know?
Right.
Each have something to offer. It's just too bad that the media tells you what to think now, you know? And I'm like, again, what's the difference between Hong-Sing Cholefoot and boxing Cholefoot? What's the difference between Honga or village Honga and modern Honga? And the guy, I don't know. And you're telling me boxing is the best. You don't know anything, you know? Like, stupid.
Yeah. You know, part of the problem is that when the Gracies started going around in the 80s, going to gyms and challenging people to build their name, decades of that led to the whole group thinking traditional martial arts don't work. But and then the other day I was watching somebody's podcast, and they were saying how, you know, kung fu and traditional karate and all this garbage doesn't work on the street, and that's why MMA rules. And I just thought, well, part of the problem is you have professional BJJ or MMA competitors going into martial arts schools and challenging amateurs.
Of course.
Right. I mean, if you were a college wrestler and you were wrestling at a collegiate level and you went into a martial arts school to a first dan who's just learning for self-defense, and you take him out, choke him out, of course.
Yep.
You know, but you got to put the competitor against the competitor, right? Or the street fighter against the street fighter, and not have all these top-level competitors or trained BJJ, MMA, Muay Thai fighters going in and beating up just regular students at a regular martial arts school, because the schools since the mid 80s have all become like family martial arts schools. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're not really traditional training martial arts schools. Yeah. So even the intention of the training is not even for that.
That's right. And it's also, it's in French we say vend sa salade. You're selling your lettuce. It's business. You know, so people don't. There's a business behind this. So I see all these videos. Kung Fu master gets beaten up by blah blah blah, and you look at the guy. That's not a Kung Fu master. That's a person with mental health issues. I mean, he couldn't fight he's nobody. So what Kung Fu master are you talking? So this is like a organized business. Or you have a challenge fight. One guy was 200 pounds. The other guy was 140. One guy has gloves and one doesn't. What kind of
Who would let a match like that occur for real? Are you kidding? Like, you know,
Yeah.
one with gear, one with no gear. What, 4 weight differences? This is stupid, you know? Anyhow,
Yeah.
it's a
The other
business.
thing that it irks me, I think it's silly, is okay. I got beat up in the 5th grade, so my mom signed me up for Taekwondo lessons. That was the closest martial arts school, right? Okay, so I'm learning martial arts for self-defense. And then once you're in, it's like the mob. If you didn't quit in the first 3 months, you're in for life, right? It's,
Yeah.
we just can't, it's in the blood. You can't get out. But you go through and you get to black belt, first dan, whatever, and everybody's just like, my style's better than your style. My teacher within this style is better than your teacher in that style because he's an offshoot branch teacher who didn't really get it from this headquarters. He got it from that thing. And that's like, what the hell does that have to do with martial arts, with self-defense? My self-defense style, Lorne, is way better than your self-defense style. So let's attack each other and see who can defend themselves better. To prove, I mean, it's just so friggin' ridiculous that this like immature masculine, we have to have challenge matches because we saw it on Shaw Brothers and, you know, cowboys in the Old West, and we got to do that now to prove that we're manly. It's,
And
you know,
the challenge matches that occurred in the old days and
Yeah.
occur today, it was never between masters. It was never
it's
between
their students.
Exactly. The young,
Right.
stupid student who's 20 years old who basically doesn't know very much, you know? It's always like that. The masters are having tea together going, what the heck? One time I had a student, my student fought another master's student. I don't want to say the name, a well-respected person you know well, okay?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, they fought on the street. The police came and everything. I phoned them up. I was like, dear so-and-so, I apologize. The guy's, what the heck? These kids are so stupid. Blah, blah, let's go have tea. Oh, okay, thank the
Okay.
Lord. It's stupid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So tell us about this book, Authentic White Crane Kung Fu, that you wrote with Master Lee. I had seen some early drafts of it, of course, and it was his writing in Chinese, I believe, and then you translated it. And there's a lot of really good material in this book. You know, a lot of martial art books are like, here's this, especially in the earlier ones, here's the stances, here's the punches, and now they're like, here's the forms and breakdown of the forms. But there's actually a lot of drill down deep information in this book. And I'll have the links in our show notes for people to get these on Amazon and so forth. But what can you tell me about? Can you tell us about how that book is unique, the content of it?
What happened is after I made my second book, the second edition, I convinced my teacher, again, keep in mind, you know how it is, the old Chinese, they don't want to get videotaped, they barely a picture, you know, and I convinced them to make DVDs with me. And that was a godsend. Now that he passed away, I have him on tape doing all the basics and everything. So that was a great thing. After that, he realized, oh, I can be a bit more open. And when he was coming to Canada, when he came to Canada, he would stay 3-4 months. So sometimes he's bored. So he'd be, and what are you doing? He was writing a book. Okay, so eventually he gave me this book, and with his extensive knowledge, his insights, you know, when he says something, the average person goes, okay, and me and you, whoa, wait a sec, that was important here. I understand what he's talking about. This is not detail. This is the essential things, you know. He's talking about staff, and when he says have a good stance, I've heard that before. No, man, you're holding a 7-foot staff, and you're going to be fighting against a guy with a sword. You better have a good stance, or it's not going to work, basically, you know. So he wrote this book. In my opinion, there was a lot of profound things. But it was too short.
Yeah.
So I remember you helped me translate, and your friend helped me translate.
Mm-hmm.
I realized it's too short for a book. So I told him it's too short. You need to not fluff it up. But so I go to him. I have an idea. Also, he wrote it the old Chinese way, which is, you know, one character means 7 things, and that's it's very hard. You know, I said let's make it more interesting and tell stories about your father, about the history, and normally he tells me these stories, he had a drink or two, or he's in a good mood. So I know the stories by heart, and he doesn't tell them to everybody. So he goes to me, just tell the stories, you know them already. So I'm like, so I just told the stories. Sometimes if it's involving a challenge or something like that, the persons are well known, so I didn't put their name, you know. I don't want I don't want to be rude or nothing like that. And sometimes it's okay because it's such a long time ago.
Yeah.
So my part is the stories. His part is the actual techniques, basically.
Yeah.
And sometimes I understand what he was trying to say. So he told me, go ahead and explain it like in English, basically. So I'll spend a paragraph and a half, because in Chinese, a lot of idioms, a little saying, and people don't understand the saying, So you have to explain, what does this actually mean? And they're, oh, okay, or else it's just going to go over their heads, basically.
Yeah.
So we were very happy with the book, and I was just about to release it, and he passed away. I think I released it a month after he passed away. I know.
That's hard.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. At least he was there to contribute to it,
He was very happy. I don't even know if he saw the cover or not. I don't remember anymore. So it's his book, and I just changed it a bit. And but it's too bad. There was a whole section on Qigong. It was so complicated. Your translator was like, I was like, ooh. I probably should have asked you. I didn't think of it. Anyways, maybe we'll look at it together sometime. My teacher's English wasn't good enough, so he just couldn't explain, and I just took it out. I says, yeah, I'm not going to put something in I barely understand myself, But I'm happy he's showing applications and this and that.
And so forth. One of the things that I know you're also involved with is tournaments, right? So do your students compete in the open tournaments or the wushu tournaments, or because I saw a video of you talking about broadswords and which are good for tournament competitions and which are the heavy ones good for actual training and use, and so that's where this stems from.
It's funny because that video was made for my store. In my mind, it has nothing to do with my kung fu, but of course,
totally.
I was just selling swords basically, and because I know about swords, I was explaining it very nonchalantly. You know what I mean? So that video now, it's like a lot of people are looking at it. I'm like, okay. I did a few tournaments that I had the honor that you came to help me judge, which I really appreciated, and they were very successful. I'm the kind of person, when I do something, I like to do it properly.
Yeah.
I would get very uncomfortable if I felt the tournament wasn't done properly, the judging. That's why I needed, some of these tournaments and the guy's judging you. I don't think he knows anything, the guy.
Right.
At least relating. So it would be like asking me to judge a jiu-jitsu thing. I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu. Why am I here? It's not
right.
Anyhow, so I did the tournaments. The truth is, it's hard to make money. The amount of work compared to the amount of money is just like, I can make more money like just doing anything.
Selling two swords.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to do the tournaments again, but I think it's too much trouble. But I do have an idea. I might, and there I'm going to invite you for sure, 100%. If I do one, you're the first guest on the list.
Thank you.
A weekend of seminars.
Oh yeah.
And some places do these very successful seminars, which I participate in, but they're 1 hour, which is fine. But that's not what I want to do. I want to do 2-3 hours where people have a chance to get in depth.
Right.
You have a seminar with this master at 12 and that's a master at 3, whatever, something like that. And the reason is I think they'll actually learn more. Mm-hmm. And it's much easier to organize than a tournament because I just rent the hall and say, Mark, you're teaching, Sifu Mark,
right.
Sifu Bob, you're teaching that. It's easier to do, The tournament I would like to do, but it's such a big job. And
it is. You need
help. And,
you need help. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've done some things here with our Beng Hung Association and the Society of Black Belts of America. We came together to promote events where we rented out a Chinese restaurant that has 2 separate areas, and one all day they moved all the tables out for us, and we had a little stage, and we had like 7 or 8 teachers. We'd have 2 at a time for an hour. And then the group would switch to the other teacher, and then 2 more teachers would come in, and the group would switch and switch. Yeah. And then they pulled out a Chinese buffet for lunch, so it was all included. Nobody had to leave. And then after lunch, there'd be a few more classes, then a break, and then all the tables came out for the big banquet with the demos and a 10-course meal and awards and things like that. It was really fantastic.
It's a good idea. The only thing is, at my age, I need a nap somewhere in between.
You need a nap in between, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was like, man, just like my head is spinning because I'm like, this comes next. Oh, there's no fried rice left. I got to get over there.
And the students liked it?
Students loved it, and we had so many teachers in the area, and from Florida came up, and New York and Ohio and everything, just to attend, even if they weren't teaching, just to be part of it. We get guys, different schools playing drums, and different people doing demos from different styles during the banquet time. And then, I hosted the first North American Five Ancestor Fist gathering that has ever happened. Always is in China or Malaysia, different places. So I had the first one here, and we had teachers from China, Malaysia, Singapore, Canada, California, all come just to this place to come out here. And we did the same thing. Training all days, 2 days, lunch is served. One night was the banquet. The next day was training lunch, and people go home. If they came in on Friday, we did training here in Maigun. Sunday, we did training here in Maigun after for people who were staying till Monday. We just trained, and different teachers were teaching different things. It was just fabulous, really great.
I think tournaments are fine. They have their place. But I think this approach right now is probably needed more. How can you compete if you didn't learn? Let's make sure they learn first.
Right.
After,
Plus, people want to learn. They're watching YouTube. Everybody's watching YouTube. Imagine if people in Canada or upstate New York are watching YouTube for white crane, and then they come and get to try it out, and then all of a sudden you got some new students too, right? So,
I find for the also because I market myself, which as traditional kung fu, and
right.
So I'm not attracting the person who was interested in tournaments. When I get a student who's really good, I'm like, look, you should go. You're going to win first place in the United States, first place in Canada. And they're like, yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Don't go, win. And I'm like,
right.
I have to beg them to go. And they're like, I'm kind of busy,
right.
because it's not the kind of person who wanted to compete in the first place, so.
Yeah. So in your school, do you train your students with the jars and the rocks and the sandbags in the school also? Is that part of the training for the students, or is it a recommended if they do it at home or something like that?
So the jars, I have about 25, 30 jars, so it's not bad.
You do.
So we can do the jars. And we practice the stance training, like something like Sanjan walking 1, 2, 3, back 1, 2, 3. So
holding the jars.
So you're doing two things at once. Wall bags, chopping bags. Yes, the fingers no, because the fingers is one step higher. It's not for everybody. So I'm like, sometimes the young guy, Sifu, I want to make my fingers hard. I'm like, you can't even move your feet and you want to make your fingers hard? It's stupid, So come back to me when you're actually skilled, and then we'll make your fingers hard.
Yeah. Plus, if you break fingers, people can sue. They can't work if they break them in the stones or something,
Maybe, yeah. I think Canada's a little bit less litigious than the U.S.
Okay.
But it's a consideration too.
Yeah.
I still spar with no gear, and people are looking at me. I'm like, look, that's how we'll put gloves on occasion, but generally speaking, no gear. And of course, I actually find it safer because people put headgear, they start hitting hard. So,
right.
So it's the judge might think otherwise, but the reality is no, it's pretty safe with no gear. I'll leave them a mouthpiece and a groin cup, But so I'm kind of old-fashioned that way.
Mm-hmm.
I find the person who's been training 10, 15, 20 years, he's going to start getting it now. And the thing he's going to get, at least in my art, is when I stick my hand out and I contact yours, I'm going to grab.
Yeah. It hurts.
Grab right away. So I can't do that with gloves. And and if you let me grab you, that would be like you're touching hands with a Tai Chi person. You're touching hands with a Wing Chun guy. You're touching hands with a flying crane guy. Shit, that wasn't a good idea. You know what I mean? It's like, you want to play? Great. I love this stuff. I love that stuff. So I think it's always about sucking in the guy to play your game.
Right.
So if I wrestle a wrestler, I'm finished. If I catch his hand or he's trying to step in, he might be finished. It's like so. I really like the grabbing, and for me, grabbing is like chess. So I catch your hand. Now what's your
move the next piece.
Whatever you do, you're done. I already know exactly all your options. I know already. So it's like Chi Sao. You do this, he's gonna do A, B, C, or D, and and if he blocks that one, I'm already. It's chess, and I've been playing chess for a long time. So.
Yeah.
That's how we look at it, But
Mm-hmm.
it's serious to learn that because most people, they're scared. They'll throw a side kick instead of, stepping in and catching a hand or whatever.
Right.
I was watching some Lei Tai from the Wushu Federation, and these guys are tough and they're brave and this and that.
Oh, yeah.
I kept getting his neck stuck, and I was like, could you just practice not getting your... Why is his hand coming behind your neck? How does that happen? I just don't touch me. But that's what.
Yeah, I think a lot of their training is spent so much on conditioning.
Yes.
How to keep hitting without losing your wind and how to take the hits without buckling.
Yes. And hitting hard. And hitting hard.
They hit real hard. Oh yeah, and they take the shots.
Oh yeah.
And but they don't have that. There's not time or focus on those additional things like a guy grabbing your neck.
It's not hard. You just don't let him grab your neck. He's like, what are you trying to do? Same like the guy kicks. Did you ever consider just stepping back half a step? Like, it's not hard. Just move out of the way. You're so focused on winning and being tough that you either step in, which is okay, or worse, stay there and get the shot,
Right.
So I can take it. It's not a good idea, The guy can kick, you just walk away. You trying to hit me or what? Of course, it's easier said done in the office than in the ring. So I'll give him
right.
respect them for.
Yeah, we're both sitting in chairs at night, saying this over the internet. Oh my gosh! Do you guys in your crane style, or let's just say, forget crane for a sec, just martial kung fu, traditional kung fu? Do you in your own practice have meditation? I know you got into yoga a few years ago, a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
So
White Crane definitely has its own Qigong.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's that story of, traveling from Montreal to Philadelphia. Did you get to Philadelphia or not? So in the end, can you do it or not? So for us, we take the air and we sink it to our belly. And then from there, we learn how to move it to the sides and up the back. And then all these... So whether you do this exercise or that exercise, can you move it or not? So basically, we're filled with air. So if somebody punches me, it's like hitting a tire, basically.
Right.
And then that internal energy, I can, that's air, but then there's energy. Then the energy, I can learn to strike with it. So to use it from my dantian out my hand. So that's what we do. So is that meditation? Not quite. But when you're holding because we sink the air and hold our breath, it is kind of meditation because you have to be completely calm or it won't work.
Right.
Able to do it, right? So
yeah.
For me, yoga helped me a lot because I have a naturally poor posture. Naturally, so the yoga I need.
That's what people say about you. Have you seen Lorne's posture?
That's
it's horrendous. If only he had yoga.
But the yoga helped me a lot, and it's amazing how you see like a lot of things in yoga. Martial artists should be practicing because it would make us be able to do our martial arts a lot longer. Simple warrior pose. This guys, this really helps your back, man. And we don't do it.
Right.
Especially as fighting styles, it's all about fighting. Sifu's like, I don't care, whatever. You do whatever you want, right? My Sifu, the warm up was, do whatever you want, man. I don't care, because he's from Malaysia. It's hot. They're hot already. To walk in the school.
It's hot already in Malaysia.
Yeah, the guy's kicking you in the head. He never stretched once. And what the heck,
Right.
But, so the yoga for me is a good thing.
Yeah, yoga's great. I did a podcast 2 nights ago with Dr. Vijayendra Pratap, who's a yoga teacher, probably in his late 70s, from India, and he had come here, and he puts on conferences every year with all these different teachers and healers, and not just yoga and all disciplines, but just the conversation was just amazing. Talking about all the benefits of yoga and the meditation, the consciousness, all these different things, not just the hatha yoga, the postures, asanas.
I find also there's a lot of parallels because in Asia, knowledge and religion came from India to China to Japan.
Yes.
So then sometimes, like I remember in yoga, one time the guy goes, take the air, stink it to your belly and hold your breath. And I was looking at it, what?
That's Qigong.
Yeah, that's what we do in White Crane. And we're not doing it for exactly the same reason, but it's the same thing, Yeah. Or then you find out, whatever, this esoteric practice is like a Hindu thing. That's a Hindu thing, yeah. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense. I didn't know, so.
Right.
Or this god is the same god. They just changed it out of the mustache.
They changed the names.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Pressure points. Apparently in India, it's all the same. Basically, So.
Yeah, I did. I made 3 trips to Malaysia. Too bad I didn't know you at the time. It was in the early '90s, and I was working on a book on Silambam, Indian staff fighting, and Marmaadi, the striking of the pressure points from the Indian master in Penang, and never published it. I have all the content here and the videos of it and the pictures and everything. Just wasn't enough interest at the time. But we did all this discussion on the pressure points, the striking, where they are, why, how to strike them, and all this stuff. It's really fascinating, just like Kung Fu.
So it is very similar?
Very similar, yeah.
And their knowledge of points, they call it something else, but
they call it Marma Adi, striking points, right.
Yeah. I always had a hard time with, in Malaysia, the culture. Of course, I try to be polite and open-minded and listen, but it was hard because the language issue. They're all speaking different languages. So you have three people at a table speaking 2 or 3 different languages. So you're trying to go, what language are you speaking? And one is speaking Hokkien, one is speaking Chujiao, one is or. So that was one thing. The religion thing was complicated too because it's very complicated. Same. I mean, in Malaysia, there's a lot of Christians. Chinese convert to Christianity, and I'll tell them, "What kind of Christian are you?" And they look at me like, "What?"
Like,
and I
what do you mean, what kind?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, are you evangelical, Methodist, Catholic? And they're like, what? And I'm like, so same for us. We go into all the different types and schools of Taoism. It's so complicated.
Right. I get really impressed when, you go to Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia. Everyone's got like 4 or 5 languages.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't even get 2 good enough. I got like a little bit of Japanese, Tagalog, Cantonese, Hokkien, but a little Mandarin.
It's hard, I find.
It's hard, yeah.
And
nobody else speaks it. So, and all our terms are in Hokkien.
I know.
Right? But nobody else, they're speaking Cantonese for the same terms. And I'm like, no, it's this. They're like, no, it's not. It's like, we're not speaking Cantonese.
Yeah. Right? I've had that problem my whole life. My teacher actually made the choice. He said, we're going to switch it to Mandarin. So when when you teach in Canada, you're going to do it in Mandarin just because it's easier. And sometimes I would read the book in Chinese, or my Kung Fu brother would read it to me, and he'll say the word. I'm like, what? And then he's making a mistake. He's pronouncing it in Hokkien, and it's so many possible mistakes. Or what term is that? And the guy, well, in Mandarin I don't say it, but in Hokkien you say it this way, Or that's a Hokkien word. I don't know. Like in Mandarin I have no idea, So it's tough, When my teacher passed away, there was a few forms he didn't teach me, but he was smart. He insisted I learn all the names. My teacher always said, if you don't know the names, like, this is not traditional, So one of his things was the Kung Fu master knows the name of every single move he does. He knows the meaning and he knows the application. If you don't say you're a Kung Fu master. So he insisted. So now if somebody reads the book to me, I can understand in 2 seconds.
You could get it, yeah.
I can get it like easily. And it's not I think I get it. No, I know I got it. Why? Because I have the background. Somebody else will read it and go, I'm not sure what that means. But I do know what it means because I studied enough. So thank God. So I saved 3 or 4 forms that I could just read from the book. It was one move I didn't know. I asked the senior. He goes, oh, it's this. Okay, done, solved, So thank God. So my teacher knew. And when you learn the Chinese, when you get the actual meaning, then you're like, oh, wow, I understand even more now. Like,
because every character's got like levels of meaning. I mean, you open up the dictionary, it's like 50 meanings,
One confused me. Somebody had to explain it to me. It's it means like a branch. With the character with whatever at the bottom is branch. But with the symbol at the bottom is human, it means limb. So white crane attacks the branch, okay. White crane attacks the limb, okay. So they're using them interchangeably. Imagine a nightmare, and I'm going, what? And I'm like, I realize, okay, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. White crane attacks the branch, attacks the limb.
It's the upper branches,
Exactly. But it's confusing, so we have to learn. But same like this finger poke we'll commonly call biao or biu in Cantonese, right?
Biu, yeah, biao. We call it tok.
You call it what?
Tok, T-O-K.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the real name is Yun Zhe, which means the clouds cover the moon.
Ah, nice.
So why? Because biao is an intercepting technique.
Right.
So
goes over top.
Yeah, so maybe your hand comes in, I block your hand and I strike you.
So learning the names is going to help you. So then the guy doesn't know. He's just using it to attack. I'm using it when you attack to counterattack. So the name taught me something valuable.
Names are very important in martial arts, traditional martial arts. Even in Eskrima, I get miffed when we have these guys who are calling themselves GMs, grandmasters or masters, and they don't know the terminology. And they're saying like, okay, this is the outside block, the inside block. This is a number one strike. This is a this. All those strikes have names, right? So in Eskrima, number one strike is like this, right? It's top of your right shoulder down if you're right-handed. And it's called Tagang San Miguel, the strike of St. Michael, right? St. Michael's the patron saint of martial arts in Cebu, in the central Philippines. And St. Michael always has a sword either over his shoulder and he's trampling the devil and he's going to come down to kill him, or the sword's this way and it's still coming down at the same angle as the thrust instead for the devil. So the strike of St. Michael is coming from this angle down, to kill. And there's a meaning there. It's not just, it's a number one strike, right? Same with the acupuncture points. Here, in the United States, a lot of people just learn the points. This is large intestine 4, it's like Hegu, right? This is stomach 25 or whatever. And it's like, but the meaning, the term has, it's like the 100 convergence point or the mountain point or this point. And it's there for a reason, because that one word gives you so much background into the use.
You'd be better off to know the meaning and understand it.
Yeah.
So the move you just described, we call Senren Janchai. The god chops the lettuce being your
the chops the lettuce.
Right. And when I say chop, I don't mean like chop. No, I mean like full body. Boom, he's dead.
Oh yeah,
chop, right. So
it's like with one of the cleavers with the ducks. When they're cutting the ducks and the roast pork, right?
Exactly.
Coming down on
your
it.
body behind it. When you do it.
Yeah. In high school, I studied Ed Parker Kempo, and he had techniques where you cross the arms and he called it breaking branches. There's your branches.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon for Lorne Bernard? Where's your personal kung fu life going, or your personal inner development? You have yoga, you have your bike, you have fishing. Is there something else coming out? Or you're pretty good, pretty set?
I'm pretty set. I mean, I think as we get older, I remember one time I was kind of like, I've been always very little rough, little hard, very polite, but little rough, little hard. And I grow compassion over the years. And I remember asking my yoga master, something wrong with me? And he goes, no, you're just growing up, So now nice. I don't, even fishing, I don't want to hurt the fish no more. My wife is, I'm like, just let it go, So we're at that age where, honestly, I've got everything I possibly ever dreamt for. So, I have a beautiful wife, a daughter, a successful business, successful in martial arts. I'm just lucky to be alive. I wake up every morning, thank you, Lord, and I want to do something good and help people. And and for training, it's just a pleasure. And I think one of the big issues in life, but in martial arts, but in life in general, is the ego. Why are you doing everything?
Right.
So people let their ego ruin their lives, ruin their martial arts. And for me, I realized a while ago from somebody's bad example, oddly enough, that I went, I don't want to do that. And what is he doing wrong? And I went, it's his ego. His ego's always in the way. So for me, it's just, I do the martial art for love of my teacher and my Qigong. And I train hard every day to preserve this art so people can see what real white crane looks like. And because I'm not doing it for me, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And if I do a demonstration, I used to get nervous. Oh, what if I do it wrong? Now I don't care. I'm just showing you what I got. It's not about me. It's about the art. So that's the lesson I learned. Is it's not about you, it's about everybody else, and that's when you're going to be happiest. I'm very happy when I walk my dog, who is right there. See, she's sleeping on my Kirby. So I couldn't be happier just walking my dog. I take her to the kung fu school. I tell her, Daddy's going to do kung fu. She sits feet in the air. You could spar, jump over. She won't even wink. And that's the good life. Everything else is who cares. What I mean?
Yeah.
All the trophies and the medals and the big egos, and I'm the president of this and certified judge. Good for you.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I think all real martial artists are humble and friendly, and all the wannabes are, big mouths and egos. That's what
Puffing out their chest.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And when I was young, I knew people. How can we say this? On the other side, okay, and the guys don't talk much, and the guys who do talk much don't last a long time. And the guys who don't talk much are the guys you want to be careful of. Right, so that's how it works in that world, and it's the same world in martial arts. Guys who boast are never good, and the guys who don't boast, be careful. The guy who says, "I just practice a bit," might train 3 hours a day for the last 50 years. What? I had a friend; he was really good, and I go to him, "You must practice all the time," and he goes, "No, just a bit." And I look at his wife, and his wife goes, "He practiced on our honeymoon." I was like, "I knew it." So,
Oh man.
so for me, maybe just continue promoting White Crane.
Yeah.
I think books. I'm getting tired of writing books. I find it's hard on the back with the glasses.
It is.
So I think it's done. I'm going to film myself doing the advanced forms and leave them in my inheritance to the students so they can understand it, because they can't read the Chinese.
Yeah.
I actually took the entire curriculum of White Crane and romanized it. So right leg forwards, Yu Jiao Jing. So I write it like that, YOU, blah, blah, blah. So my disciples, they can understand. But not everybody can understand it. But anybody who is like, okay, I know what he's saying. And plus I've got the Chinese, plus the Romanized. But just that is 140 pages of typed material so far. And I'm not even finished yet,
Crazy.
So,
yeah.
all the weapons forms and, the weapons, like, no, even me, I don't want to train double axes. It's too heavy, or the meteor hammers.
Yeah.
Getting old for this, I like daggers, staff, or you just have fun with it. And I'm just trying to save it as much because I love my teacher and I love my style.
Yeah.
And that's.
I think if you just videotape everything, and it's there.
The only thing is, and this is again an example of ego because I'm a work in progress, is sometimes I say I won't videotape this week because I need to practice more. And what happens is you never end up videotaping it.
You die.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to be careful of that one too, and just go videotape it anyways, just in case.
Yeah.
And the advanced forms, the guy's going to read the book, he's not going to understand. It's too complicated, like imagine writing. When you're writing it down, how do you write a spinning back fist?
Right.
Because I read it and everybody was scratching it's a spinning back fist. I know what it is. But it's like, put your feet facing east, but look facing west. And then, the guy's, what?
Spin. Yeah, that stuff is hard. That's why it's easier to make a video, but you don't get the details just watching it,
The worst is actually writing broadsword forms down. That's crazy. Because this is how do you write that? What the, they're 100% video for sure. Because my teacher says we're writing it down because we have no choice, but it's not obvious to write all these subtle techniques with.
I think that's why they just use keywords for the postures, because they know what this is called and they know what that's called. They know what this is called and whatever. So it's like characters instead of, on a 45-degree angle from right to left, do this. You can't. Yeah. You just got to say Duguachoy.
And then sometimes like one is 45 and one is, 20. I mean, it's a different name. So, in my White Crane, like a hand movement like this. So, Meilen Jiao Jing, Tiao Ji, Sou Zhuan, Tian Kan, Yatsi. It's like A minor in music, A minor sixth, A minor seventh, A minor. It's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing, but we have to give it a different name to be accurate. So,
right. Yeah. We have that issue in Eskrima because we have like 9 blocks that look almost identical, but the action on hitting the weapon is different.
And the devil is in the details,
Right? The way the wrist turns when it hits, the angle that you tip it when it hits, how the pressure goes at point of impact, so they have different names. I was like, well, that's just this. Only if you're not doing it on purpose. It's just that. But on purpose, it's these 9, or whatever. Yeah.
One of the things is I wonder, I always wondered why the Chinese martial artists wouldn't practice broadsword to broadsword. Why didn't they just pick up sticks? Almost nobody does it. And the main reason is they didn't want to damage their swords. I'm like, are you kidding?
But only if you had a long opium pipe, they fight with that. But they didn't want to fight with sticks. They're like,
I think also there's the cultural assumptions.
Yeah.
So in the Chinese community, if you had a sword, it would be
silly to assume he has a sword too. He might have a spear, he might have a staff. So the two guys having two swords, that would be like the katana in Japan. You would assume they both have katanas, I think, anyway. So it's very
Right.
cultural as to what weapon would be what, you know. So
Yeah.
when I lived in Malaysia, or when I was visiting in Malaysia, on several occasions, I saw people running for their lives, and I mean like
Wow.
smoke behind his heels running. And then you see the guys throw like these 4-foot swords back in the truck and go, "Oh, we missed them," you know. And holy crap, man! It's the
Damn.
real deal, you know, because there's no guns, and there's bets and gambling and all that. But then you see like, and that's when you see how martial artists get respect in those communities, because the crazy guy has a sword but doesn't know how to use it. But then the martial arts expert has a sword and knows how to use it. So the crazy guy knows, oh shit, I met my match this time, you know? And it's not a game, because this is not a game, you know? So I'm sure you know.
So the name of this podcast is Transformations. And we've talked a lot about the white crane, and we talked a lot about different things with your own practice and your own history in these arts over time. What would you say is one of the greatest transformations that has occurred within you because of your involvement in traditional martial arts?
I think for me, it gave me an outlet. I needed to do something, and this was the right thing to do. I could have went another direction. I went in this direction. So it worked out great. I had a good, honest job living. I met people. Another thing is I got a good insight into another culture. It's easy to touch the outside, but to go inside and understand, it's a different story. I got a pretty good insight. Many of my Chinese friends are like, geez, man, you know more than I do. And I'm like, no, I don't. But yeah, I got lucky for that. I think it made me a happier person, a very confident person. I'm not arrogant, but I'm not scared to go anywhere, basically, you know, although sometimes that could be a mistake. But anyhow, so I feel better inside. I feel strong. I feel like maybe when I was young, I wanted to protect the weak, but I couldn't. Now I'll just step in and protect the weak, like for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll take care of business. So that's good. And I think helping people makes us feel good. So I think it's about, you know, do the right thing, the karma, and then inside you feel good. So I think that's the main thing, basically.
Nice.
We grew as a person, you know, and some people do it, some people don't, you know. And also constant research, like I see for yourself, constant research, you just become a better individual, you know, a more learned, more educated, more compassionate, more whatever, you know. So that's always this.
Man, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Lorne.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased and blessed to have you as a friend, as a Kung Fu brother or cousin. And can't wait for you to come down to Philadelphia. As soon as we get the next event started, come right down, or just find time and come down when it's good, you know. And I'll of course love to come back up to see you.
Anytime. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do that convention thing, as we call it, and you're my first guest.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
buddy.
Bye-bye, my friend.
Thank you.